further. What you're experiencing is indeed part of the process, and the shift is happening even if it might not feel like it. The tangled mess, the waiting, the seeming lack of results, these are all parts of the journey. The shift is here. I go on to say, see if any of this relates to you. Your prayers for your children, that's a tough one, isn't it? The prayer for your children and your trust in the words God has spoken to you are not in vain. I get excited about that one. Embrace the process, for it's in the midst of these challenges that growth happens. New visions, new dreams, transformation. It's time to transition from merely enduring the shift to breaking through with renewed faith. And I concluded by saying, don't give up. Don't freak out amidst the process. You know, when it comes to process, I would really love for you to think about this. Process is about relationship. It's about relationship with God, your Father. Process involves a trusting of going through those times where you don't see the results. I say I'm a voice coach, but I think whatever you're going through, I think it has to do with your voice, because your voice is linked to your identity. And I don't mean, okay, now it's time for you to go live and talk your voice. That's not what I mean. But I talk about, I'm looking at a verse because I can't memorize it. I talk about this verse that is very dear to me. And I think it has a lot to do with you getting through the process, getting through the shift. I use it often because it's meant so much to me. So my husband's death is not my identity, but in the last couple of years, we've gone through some serious tragedy. Not just the fact that he died, but October 3rd, 2021, we were moving and we were burning debris outside in a burn barrel. And it was the one day I didn't go down there to help him. We were moving, I was packing china, and I had someone helping me. And I'll never forget the day where I put that plate down, looked out the window, and he was fully inflamed. There was an excruciating process, taking him the next day, finding out it was third-degree burns over 30% of his body, and he didn't want to go to the hospital. It was an excruciating process to be Nurse T, to go through dressing his wounds, the screams, the shouts. And then there was a process where we moved. He couldn't lift anything, so thank you to my family who helped us. And then there was a process of trying to find a house. We couldn't find a house. So we bought a little camper. And then the process continued with night after night, hearing my husband scream, not realizing there were other things going on in his body that were just as serious, if not more, than the cancer. And then finally, his family visiting him, all our kids visiting him, and the oldest son saying, Dad, I'm going to drag you to the hospital. The process of getting a diagnosis of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The process of being by his side January, February, March, April, May, June 5th, when he passed away. His death is not my identity, though. Hear me say that, because I believe sometimes you go through agony and it brings apart some of your destiny. And I want to speak out on this because your process may be something just as painful, but something different. How do you walk through it? Your process may be right now in a relationship that you can't figure out. A relationship that maybe involves your spouse that just seems like you can't figure it out. One thing I learned, that God brings us together to heal each other and not kill each other. I'll let you sit with that. So all these processes, process for children, believing God for them, process for your future, for your business. What if you feel like that's fractured? Like sometimes I think when you go through those traumas and such, that there's a fracture on your voice, which really is on your identity. Like I kept saying, my husband's death is not my identity. My identity is in who I am and whose I am. I have to continually remind myself that. As I go from a soul survivor to a soul provider. Process. But I can look you dear, clear in the camera and say, I hear you. So many good comments on that post. Some of you, let me address this. Some of you thought maybe it was spiritual warfare. I believe and I know there's spiritual warfare, but whenever there's warfare, I always remember two things. One, your voice can shift atmospheres. Because the second thing is, greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world. Your voice can shift atmospheres. You start speaking those declarations. So those who thought it was a spiritual attack, some of them it just resonated. There's a process, there's a shift happening, and I'm waiting for that shift. I can relate to that because there were times when I thought there was a shift coming and I was just waiting on it. But instead of just waiting on it, maybe God's calling you to act on it and to do something, to speak something, or to walk in a new lane. For then the shift comes as you make that effort. I don't know what he's calling you to. I'm in the midst of a shift. He's calling me to teach people how to speak, whether it's online or on stages. I'm very passionate about that. You know why? Because I believe you have an extraordinary solution to people's pain points. And maybe you're watching this because you're like, okay, she said she's a voice coach. What's going on here? You may have a great coaching business and you want to connect with people. I know I'm going I'm staying on the same lane of process. Because this is the verse I wanted to share with you, where I found great hope. And it was a process, a long process. And it's Amos 9. Let me get to Amos 9, verse 8. Write that down. I want you to check this out. Amos 9, verse 8. Amos 9, verse 8. Sorry about that. I should have it memorized, but I don't. Verse 11, sorry. Amos 9, verse 11. And you know what heads this? This is process. It's a beautiful process because the heading is Israel's restoration. I'm reading the NIV. Another one says a promise of restoration. So I think you can be in process going for the restoration. I'm just going to believe that's why I opened this mic up and started talking to you related to the post above me. I believe this is a process for restoration. And you're like, sounds great, T. Let's get there. Well, listen to this process. Listen to these keys. In that day, I will restore David's fallen shelter. I will repair its broken walls and restore its ruins and will rebuild it as it used to be. So the first step is repair. Scientifically, I know I can tell you that forgiveness is powerful. It does something inside of you. So sometimes you have to forgive. I know I had to forgive myself for feeling like I wasn't enough through the ordeal with Dave, even as a mom. So often I just like, man, I missed the mark with my kids. I was thinking that this morning as I was praying for them, and I was remembering that when they were young, innocent and so much fun. Not that they're not innocent and so much fun now. They're 21 and 25. And I have to fight against regret. So sometimes you need to forgive others, but sometimes you need to forgive yourself. Something unlocks in your brain when you start to forgive yourself. The next step is restore. That's a big one. That's when you get over the trauma of your drama. Or is it drama? The trauma. It's not an immediate step that happens. It's not an immediate result. Repair sometimes and very often involves a trusted friend, maybe a counselor, or maybe a therapist. When you get all three in one, you're really blessed. I'm so blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. But really someone who's going to like, okay, how are you feeling? Don't beat around the bush. I'm laughing because for the first 7, 8 sessions, well, that's a lot of sessions, she said, T, you went around the mountain to come back here to tell me how you felt. So it was a process of realizing, okay, I don't feel like I'm good enough, but I am good enough. Process, repair. Something powerful that happens when you repair. So you rebuild, you repair. And what's the third step in this verse? You rebuild. And this is a powerful, very powerful scientific mental tip. I don't know how else to say it. But you have this, what's called the expectancy mindset. This one step, the repair, the other two are very powerful. But this step gives me courage to truly rebuild. And what is that step? That's the step, expectancy mindset, is you believe from a place of thanksgiving, you believe something will happen for you. You may have no evidence around you, but you stay thankful and you expect it. We have a great example of that. Look at Jesus. He had to feed 5,000. He had one piece of bread, or he had 5 loaves, excuse me. He took one piece of bread. Can you tell me he didn't have an expectancy mindset? But for our sake, what did he do? He lifted it up and said, Father, I thank you. I'm not doing this for me, but I'm doing it for them. He broke the bread and he fed 5,000. He had no evidence, but he thanked the Father. I think, as he is in the world, so are you. So as Jesus did that, I believe you can have that expectancy attitude. Like Romans chapter 4, Abraham called those things that were not as though they were. Or Sarah, after she got done laughing, Sarah had a promise. And she embraced God's miracle working power, even though she was barren, even though she was past childbearing. We're talking about expectancy. But what did Sarah do? She laughed. Yeah, she laughed. But after she got over the laughter, she embraced God's miracle working power. And she rested in the authority of the one who made the promise. Someone needs that. You want to go forward. You got an expectancy mindset, but you just get in that place of resting in the power and the authority of the one who promised that for you. It might be for your children. It might be for your marriage. It might be for your finances. It might be for that mess that you're like, okay, I'm ready for the shift. I read that. I'm going to go up there and read that post because I need a shift here. Expectancy. It's part of the rebuild. Repair. Restore. Rebuild. And then where do you go from there? I think you go into action. I think you go in taking each step seriously. The restore one might take a while. Be patient with the process. Be patient with the process and let yourself be restored. Let your mind be rewired. We really can rewire our brain. Great neurocycle, Dr. Caroline Leaf and all her facilitators have really brought to the forefront mental health by realizing, hey, we can rewire our mind. Yes, it's declarations, but it's more than that. It's deconstructing the old and reconstructing the new of who you really are. Your voice, who you really are. So I'll just end it with that. There's more stories to tell. I could sit here and tell you lots of stories, but I hope the few stories that I told made sense. And I will tell you, I am a voice coach. For teaching people online and on stages, but just as important as being a voice coach, what comes with that is a serious identity dive down deep, with courses and one-on-one chances to really go deep and dive into your identity. And you may very well be, I need my voice, and my voice is in my home. I really need my voice, or I really need my voice at work, or I really would like to kickstart my professional career. Maybe it starts with speaking online. Maybe it starts with finding those stages. There's a very small percentage of you that really know you have a message and you know there's a stage waiting for you. You just don't know how to get from there to the stage. That's what I'm all about. Part of it with an identity check. So check out theresacroft.com. It'll be a little start. It'll be a resource on how to avoid the 3 common fears that people have when it comes to using their voice. But more than anything, I just want you to know that I believe in you. You are enough. I love to speak like declarations as if we're having coffee together. Yeah, you can be from another country and we'll just hug spiritually. Someone said that they wanted to fly here and just give me a hug. I thought that was so sweet. But no, we can connect by this wonderful gift of live, online, maybe 2 people watch. That's okay. I'm going to tell those 2 people, I believe in you. You have a voice. You're so incredible. You're so special. You're really kind. You're really amazing with your kids. You're really an amazing teacher or coach. You just got the touch. You got that extraordinary that really helps people's pain points. I believe in you. I say you are enough. I say you can totally go through the process. And for some of you, let me just say this. The shift is now. Grab it and hold on to it. The shift is now. The shift in your finances. Someone needs to hear that. The shift is now. Restoration and reconciliation. The shift is on. Keep your love on. Stay kind. And find yourself often in the vineyard with your vine dresser. Go deeper and deeper down those rows of the vineyard and let the Father first touch your heart So you can come from a healed place, from a repaired and restored and a rebuilt place. I believe in you.